Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Random. Egberto Will is your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today again. Michael Rudnin, welcome aboard. AVQ, welcome aboard. Folks. Before I get started, I just have to, let's see, how do I say this? I just have to say it this way. We have got to let these people that are putting America's lives at risk, we have got to let them pay the price. We can, it is no longer, this is not funny. You know, this is not really political. This is human. This is humane. Just one incident that got to me this morning, and that is we had in Georgia, the different municipalities and cities, they passed laws to force people to put their stuff on. That's what they've done, to put their masks on, etc. And this big bad governor, in order to placate Donald Trump, says, my order supersedes, just like our governor here in Texas did before he was forced to start looking at things a bit differently, decided to go ahead and say, you guys just have to, you cannot have any orders that are more stringent than the order coming from the state governor, from the governor of the state. And because it cannot be stringent, and because I am not going to force people to put masks on, I will put everybody's lives in danger. There are a lot of Republicans in Georgia saying, oh, we were glad when we decided to get masks. We were glad. Now we also have the governor of, I think it's Alabama, starting to make waves again. But anyhow, let's go ahead and get started with the show. Title of the show today is Activists Shocked Delivering Food to the Poor. Twitter Breach, Biased Policing, and Science. Activist Bobby Rodrigo was shocked as he delivered food to the poor in the Pacific Northwest. He saw conditions that should be anathema to America. Non-science president, biased policing, and Twitter breach. That's what we're talking about. Good morning, Senor John Tratt. Bruce Pollard, welcome aboard, my brother. Bobby Rodrigo went to the Pacific Northwest to do the relief work he knows. Delivery of food and sustainability. I worked with Bobby a lot of times under the framework of the Coffee Party. Bobby did a lot of relief work in Puerto Rico and other places. He worked very, very hard to make things better for people. But he himself, I have a typo in here, was not prepared for what he saw in the Northwest. And the interview that we are going to play in a minute, you'll see exactly what we're talking about. Bobby, to put it mildly, was shocked. Dimitri OG, welcome aboard. So Bobby was not shocked because the people needed food. Again, he's delivering over 40,000 pounds of fish out there. He was shocked because of living conditions that are completely anathema to what America is thought to be. We'll also discuss the Twitter breach. I have some ideas on the Twitter breach. I think the Twitter breach is dangerous, but I think a lot of times we may be looking in the wrong places for the Twitter breach. And I don't think it was an accident. Using Barack Obama's account to sell these what is it called? The kind of money that they have, that electronic type money, to do that, Bitcoins and all of that. They wanted it to be known that the account was hacked. And if they made a few bucks on the side, hey, it's okay. But this, a lot of people are saying, oh, they just made a little bit of money, but I mean, they didn't go through this right or what? No. I don't have any evidence, first of all, for what I'm going to talk about, the Twitter deal. But I'm going to talk about it with some assumptions, and I'm going to say the only reason I'm talking about it without having facts as far as what went on the inside is that none of us know what it went on the inside. But we can have what's called deductio al absurdum. Okay? Reductio al absurdum, which says, let's deduct based on things that would otherwise be very silly. We'll talk about that in a little bit, my brothers and my sisters. And then, of course, uh, I have a video of a Richard Carranza, who is a chancellor of the school district in New York, that's going to be say something funny about the president and his administration. But I want to go ahead. Hey, welcome aboard, Kathy Courtney, the room where it happened. The room where it happened. Let's see. Help me out. You know, the minds may be a little bit behind. What room are we talking about, my dear Kathy Courtney? And welcome aboard, Kathy. Welcome aboard. Okay, let's go ahead and get busy. I think what I want to do is I want to go ahead and start with Bobby. And after Bobby, we'll do the other things, because what Bobby has to say is very interesting and it's very touching as well. So let's start with Bobby and then we'll go forward thereafter. So here's Bobby. Welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm here with Bobby Rodrigo. Bobby is doing some excellent work out there. You know, we are in a pandemic. People are starving. You know, the pandemic, the depression will not be televised. America does not want you to know that America is in dire straits. So that percentage of America that is being depressed even further by what's going on in this country right now is kept away from you. But luckily, we have people out there in the field that are doing magnanimous work. Bobby Rodrigo, how are you doing, my brother?
I'm good, my brother. How you doing, Egberto? It's been a minute since we did this online. Of course, we connect all the time, but sometimes I get mad enough where we should talk online.
Look, let me tell you, Bobby, and these are times to be mad. First of all, Bobby, tell me a little bit about this group that you've organized, that you're working with to feed thousands of people right now on the Pacific Coast.
Yeah, so I've been, as you know, and as you have covered, I have done relief work for many, many, many years. And when things happen, the ones that are doers, the action people, pretty much come together and say, okay, what do we got? What are we doing? Can we do something? Or ideas are developed. So the real lead in this is Chef Jeffrey Moore from foodfleet.com and Justin Zollner from the Wave Northwest. And I know Justin from the Green Sports Alliance originally, and actually Jeff introduced me to him. I know Jeff for a number of years. Jeff actually cooked for the Lakers, for example, for 10 years, I think, or 7 years, whatever it was. But he's one of the top food industry people there is in the world. So anyway, Jeff, in the middle of the COVID, Jeff contacted me and let me know what was going on, and they needed a logistics guy on the ground to run everything on the ground. So he brought me in for that, asked me to come to the Northwest. So what has happened is private donations have paid for the Alaska fisheries through Kevin Scribner, another member of our team, to bring down lingcod, which is high-end cod, and sablefish, which is high-end fish, bring it down, have it processed on the boats, cut into fillets, 1 pound fillets, frozen and given to us so we can put them out into the community. Now, none of us are dump and run kind of guys. So the idea was, because of particularly with Jeff's connection to the food supply chain for his entire life. I mean, he actually ran the department in New Zealand for a number of years, for example. The idea is, we know that, inside the industry, we know probably 85% of the independent restaurants are going to be out of business by the end of the year because of what's happening today. So the idea was to create an economic empowerment model. And you know me a number of years, Egberto, you hear me say that all the time. I want to empower communities. I am not a dump and run guy. I refuse to be that way, and we shouldn't be that way, in my opinion. So what we're doing is we created a food box program that has a number of factors. Number one, we wanted to raise the level of nutritional value that is given to people in crisis, because giving somebody a ham sandwich like the Red Cross does is moronic, in my opinion. The other thing we wanted to do is create a food box recipe type thing, and meals and either raw or processed, that are more ethically directed. So if we go into the Cajun community down in Louisiana, I'm not bringing them, food that they eat in Chicago, a pizza. We're creating a Cajun model or something that gives them the kind of comfort that we need. But the most important aspect of this is we are going to buy food from locally sourced farms, urban farms, from people of color, indigenous people who don't have access to a lot of things, from the farming aspect of it. But we want to also shrink the food supply chain down to locally sourced. So the Alaska fish and being in the Northwest is locally sourced. So we got to
Let
buy
me stop you a second,
Go ahead.
Bobby, because I want to make sure that our audience understand what's going on.
Absolutely.
First of all, what's the name of this organization that's putting this
So
together?
Justin Zollner's organization is called the Wave Northwest, the wavenw.org or anyway, the Wave Northwest. It's under the umbrella of a sustainability. He actually has a climate change organization and has been working up in the Northwest for a very long time.
And now about this fish, I know you got several 100,000 pounds of
40,000 on the ground right now. 40,000 pounds.
How did that come about?
So it was done by private donation. So some of the larger donation families in the country, and I can't name them yet because we'll go public with it formally when they say go ahead. I mean, they're not looking to get their backs patted, which I love too. So they went out and they bought this fish. They paid for the processing of the fish on the.
And now how much fish was that total again?
40,000 so far. We're going to have 300,000 pounds by the end of September, which is insane. Because each pound of fish is 4 meals.
Right.
You know, so I mean, that's amazing. You know, the amount of people, the amount of meals we'll be able to do. Plus, of course, we can't only feed fish, but the idea is, you know, I mean, the ideas are obvious to a lot of things, but that's important, Edgardo, because again, this is private money. Now, mind you, I got no issues working with the government. We all pay taxes, and our tax dollars are supposed to be in large part about delivering public benefit to the community. And you've heard me talk about this many times. This was one of the reasons why I, along with 2 other marvelous gentlemen, created We Do Better, because it was all about who delivers public benefits best to the community. So the idea, we want the federal government or any state, I don't care what government, we want them to be involved, of course, because we want to use our tax dollars to what they're supposed to be used for. You know, if we go to war, we can do it in 5 minutes. Well, when we have a crisis, we can't do it in 5 minutes.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's really ridiculous what we deal with in this country in a crisis. You know, I consider what we're dealing with the COVID is a hurricane. I'm in relief mode. That's why I'm here. I understand relief. I want your community, Alberta, to tell me what you need, and I want to help you get it. I mean, I shouldn't be telling you what you need. I'm not in your community. You should tell me what you need, and then we should work to get it. You know, it's a model that I believe works. And again, empowerment always works. So if we're able to buy food from local farms, that gives them jobs, it gives them employment. And then we want to pay people. We are paying people. We're going to pay people to make the boxes. So that's an unemployment. So we can go to a restaurant and say, okay, listen, we have X amount of fish. We want to create these food boxes here. We have this locally sourced stuff. We want you to create the boxes. So now you can have an employment model. If it's 1 day a week, who cares? If it's 5 days a week, whatever it is, they get paid to put this together.
And let me see if I understand this right also. So you may take this fish to the restaurant. You may have gone and bought locally sourced produce for them to use as well in their cooking. So that restaurant that would otherwise be closed, you can actually have it open by feeding the rest of the community with donated food that you got. So what you've done is
so it's a little bit different. So the idea, the opening them up is a completely separate issue per se. Them working is the issue.
I understood that. I understood that. So what you're saying then, Bobby, is so that restaurant gets to, and it's not about opening up to the public. It's about providing a service to this organization that's trying to feed a whole lot of people. So,
right, and we're empowering the community, and then we'll take those boxes and feed it to that community. Mm-hmm. You know, and then we also want to sell boxes to the people who don't need the relief, but love the food because it's locally sourced, organic, all those wonderful things. And then we're going to match, if you bought a box for me, I would match the box 1-to-1. We all hear about matching donations, and then take that box and go into the community. So we're creating a new food supply chain cycle.
A sustainable model.
Thank you. Well, I don't use the word sustainable because they've hijacked it politically. So I use the word resilient because they haven't hijacked no one yet.
Well, you know, I'm going to use that word sustainable.
Of course,
I'm progressive, man.
Absolutely. I think, of course, the way we hijack words politically is absurd. You know, I mean, we're looking at it every single day, unfortunately, and it gets in our way. You know, I like to give your audience an example because I really find it kind of humorous. When I think of my conservative friends, and we're talking friends, we're not talking about politicians or elected people. We're just talking about people who I know, and I see that they're mad at this Goya boycott, for example. And I love it. And I have reminded them, and I'll remind everybody else, that as long as the government is not involved in the decision making of the boycott or helping one side or the other, that is to me the true free market model. If our community forces a vendor to behave in a certain way or they don't get our business, I'm all for it, because it's truly organic. So I was telling people, I says, if I open up a restaurant and I put a Nazi swastika in the window, I'm obviously gonna go out of business because a lot of people aren't gonna come to see me. So you don't need the government to come tell me I have to remove it. You just don't go, and we're gonna be gone. So it's like I'm telling my conservative friends, you always rave about capitalism. That's capitalism. That's the real capitalism. Community forcing vendors to behave in a certain way. I don't shop in Walmart. I don't shop in other stores because of the way I know that they treat women, for example. So it's a protest with my dollar. Now, I'm obviously at the minority, but so what? They don't get my money because of what I know they've done to women who I know personally who worked for them. And I'm like, you're not getting my money. So I love the fact that the argument is reversed. And I don't care if the
Well, actually,
politicians,
what you saw, Bobby, is you
yeah.
saw the hypocrisy of selective capitalism, right? With these folks, that's what you saw.
No, what I saw was not. See, that's the difference. What I saw was government force, and I'll give you the example.
Yeah.
I'm pissed about what I saw yesterday. I know you know that. You heard me on the call earlier. So we did this food distribution model yesterday, and this wasn't our full model. This was just, we want to get, when I have commodities,
you wanted to get rid of the food. You got to get it out in the community.
Yeah, I mean, if I never do our food box program with 40,000 pounds, that stuff will be out in the community in a month.
Right.
Whatever, we'll figure it out. So we did this. It was a marvelous beginning of the day, and then we had stuff left over. The Oregon Food Bank and the Columbia Gorge Food Bank that we were working with, they had their product left over. So I took their product in my refrigerated truck, and I went out with Native American leaders, and we went to visit some outlying Native American communities, particularly fishing communities that exist along the Oregon and Washington state line. We went on both sides.
I think it was at the Columbia River, right?
Yeah, the Columbia River and the Hood River, both.
Yeah.
So we go to these communities, and you have some video on it, of course, that you'll show at your convenience. But when I went to these communities, I was going to United States government land. I was not going so I got to the point where I was thinking of these phrases in my head that I could scream about. But what happened to this community? And I did a thing on the sign, and it says that this is a Native American community in lieu of. And what that means is that when they built the dam, this is the government now, U.S., state, I don't care. They built the dam. They built the Dalles. Beautiful, wonderful, fantastic thing. Well, when they built the dam, they built two of them here. When they built the dam, they flooded all the Native American communities that were on the opposite side of the dam. So they destroyed their communities. We're talking about something that happened in the 50s, people. Okay? And they moved these people to these government little community places, and they didn't give them electricity. They may have a single source of running water, and they have a shared bathroom, and they're living in crap. So this isn't something that is Republican or Democrat.
This is in America.
This is America, thank you. And this is about government force. This has nothing to do with capitalism. This has nothing to do with government force. They created this city for white people, for people who have money. That side of it may be a little capitalist, whatever. They created this community with our tax dollars. They wiped out, we did more conquering of the Native American community. That's what they did. They did
and that
more
was
conquering.
their reservation. Was that their reservation then?
Yes, they would ask. Sovereign land. Sovereign land we're talking about here, people. Now, everybody, well, not everybody, but there's a lot of people who know what just happened in Oklahoma with the Supreme Court.
Half the land belongs to the natives.
Well, and that is real important. And the interesting thing is that even the discussions are starting to be deflected because it was a criminal case that did this. So they're talking about criminal convictions. I was having a discussion yesterday with one of the Native American community leaders about this very thing. They opened up a big can of worms, and it's not like the people haven't been litigating this. We're talking about legislative acts that are in existence for decades that are supposed to be taking care of these people with the tax dollars that we do it, that's allocated from the situation they created with creating these dams. that haven't been done at all, thrown under the rugs, and they're on these government properties. United States government. That's what I was saying.
Okay, stop a second, Bobby. Is they're on
I'm
the
mad.
reservation? They're on the reservation. It's
They were
not
on the
government property.
reservation. Now the reservation has been moved to United States government land.
Oh, so you're
In
saying the
replacement
flooded
of
land
it.
was their land, but
That's
the
right.
reservation is not a part of where they are now.
That is correct. They create. That's why it's called in lieu of. It's right on the sign that I did the video. It says in lieu of. It's insane what I saw yesterday. You know, it's like if they so think of the words ghetto in any place that you can think of, and that would be an upgrade. And I am dead serious. Not even flip. Because most of the ghettos that I know of at least have electricity in some
Right.
way.
So tell me more about what you saw, brother. And I think I have some videos to attach.
Yeah, it is amazing. You know, you go in and the entire there's not one permanent housing structure in the thing. It's all mobile type things that are broken down, old, no windows, busted doors, all kinds of things. Families. We're talking about families. Your children all over the place. Families. And so what I'm bringing to them. You know, these boxes from the Oregon Food Bank had produce in them, had butter, had a gallon of milk, things like that. Then I've got this frozen fish. I'm giving them, I have 3 pounds in a bag. So I'm giving, I don't care how many, you want 10 bags? Here you go. They got no place to put this stuff because they don't have
Refrigeration.
electricity.
Yeah.
So they got so they're going to have, so the fish I give them, they're basically going to have to cook right away and then have to eat it right away. And it will, you know, but again, this is why dumping and running don't work. You know, so now we're already, so Warm Springs, which I haven't been to yet, I'm going to be real mad when I go there. They haven't had running water, Egberto, for 2.5 years. And it's a 5,000 person community. 2.5 years.
And we don't hear about this on TV, brother.
No, of course not.
Okay,
No,
so tell me the name of these two communities in, I guess it's in Oregon and Washington.
So the individual, well, you'll see the names of them are on the sign, so I'm a blur in a way, but it's the, Long Pine was one that I can tell you for sure. Long Pine was the one by the dolls. There was one by Cascade Locks. I think that was part of the Umatilla tribe. The other ones, I can't remember the name of them, but they're on the signs because
Well, you know, we're late preparing this particular interview, and I have to process it after. So, folks, the videos, I'll add the videos later, folks, and likewise, I'll try to put inside of the blog post some of what Bobby is talking about. But this Bobby came across this delivering food because he knew there was a need in that area, and then he discovered something that he was not immediately aware of. Continue, Bobby.
Yeah, so you know, it's mind-boggling. In the United States of America, in the year 2020, the things that we see. You know, I look at all this keyboard warrior stuff on Facebook. I mean, I have as much reach as anybody.
Now, Bobby, let me tell you something. You and I have philosophical differences as far as where government stands and what government is supposed to do. But both of us share the exact concept of making sure people are helped and making sure people are treated right. Whichever one is successful at any given time, we all support, just like I support you 100% in the
same.
work that
And
you're doing.
The only difference that we have is that I don't believe in government force.
Right.
You know, I don't believe in force. And, you know, I'm a big choice guy. Like the Walk for Change, as you see behind me, it's all about trying to, to amplify, to stop the government from removing freedom of choice. And we can all think of different things that we can start with any number of subjects about freedom of choice. You know, it is about choice and it is about liberty. I'm a big liberty guy, but not in, I hate parties.
Hey, Bobby, what I don't want to do right now is for you and I to get into our philosophical
I don't either.
I want us to talk about the people that you're meeting along your path and the kind of dire straits a lot of people are in that you're seeing. Some of them, some of them it goes beyond this pandemic because yes, some of these people are.
The pandemic has nothing to do with it. The only reference to the pandemic to this particular thing is like, for example, the last numbers I got from the Native American community along Yakima was 1 in 32 were testing positive. Now think about that, considering the other numbers I was seeing, 1 in 32. So one of the media outlets in Yakima, for example, just released their largest obituary column in history.
Wow, I saw that also right here in the Houston Chronicle, man.
There you go. So you're having things that, but you think about this. So let's remove the pandemic from the thing. If somebody needed medication for anything. Insulin, a lot of insulin has to be, well, some of it, but it has to be at room temperature. It can't be
It
at high
can't be in
temperature.
hot temperature
It
like
can't be
in
in
the
hot
middle of the
temperatures, right?
summer. Yeah, right.
So they don't have a way they only can keep it in the shade. Basically, they don't have a way to do that because they don't even have places that have like a completely air, like enclosed windows on it, for example. So and mind you, you have Warm Springs is a great example, and I haven't been there yet, but I've been hearing about it since I've been here. You got to go in there. So I went and got a bunch of intel last week on it, and I'm going to get ready to go there next week. It's complicated. It's big, 5,000 people, but they're spread a lot of places. But they have no running water because their infrastructure is destroyed, and the state of Washington is involved in the fix, and the state of Washington's got their head up their ass. So, the state of Oregon, I'm sorry, and so when it comes to the infrastructure fixing, we're like, let's go put wells in, like I did in Puerto Rico. We
I
installed
remember you
wells.
drilled some wells. Yeah.
We drilled wells because the idiots at the government level and at PRESA, well, it's going to cost your community $2 million for us to do it. I'm like, are you serious? They don't have water because of a storm, and you're going to give that city a bill. Same thing here. So the state of Oregon, for example, it's a great thing about government, whatever. So the state of Oregon already allocated money to fix all of this and to the community. They allocated it. And then they took it away because of the lower in the lottery. So now they can't. So now the fight is to get it. So the Native American community have already told me that the fight is to get it out there. So publicizing this type of thing is really important, what you're doing right now, so Roberto, because I guarantee you they all love it. I'm going to make sure they all see what's happening. But that is real. I mean, it's money that was already allocated them to fix a problem that the state created in the first place, and that money. So every time they go into the infrastructure, this is part of the construction aspect of it. Every time they go into the infrastructure and the pipes, they find more problems. So that's why they haven't been able to fix this in 2.5 years. And of course, pandemic now, so we got a 6-month dead time, basically 5 months, whatever the hell it is, that's going on in that regard. They pull permits for people to do stuff. And my comment was, as soon as I got here, it's like, well, hell with the government. Let's use the government of the sovereign nation, make the decisions, and we go in there and put wells because nobody can stop us. We can permit through the sovereign nation, and at least people will have water. They don't have water. Bottom line, they don't have water. The most essential thing we need to live.
They have to
period.
get it trucked in every day.
Exactly. It's absurd. On the continental United States, everybody. Let's be real here. This is not even an island somewhere that you got to go through the Jones Act to get. This is on the continental United States. This is ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
For those who don't understand, the Jones Act was where ships, I think,
Jones
used to
Act
go
is
to the
relevant
United States first and then go to Puerto Rico.
Yeah, well, the Jones Act interferes with any ports in the United States, essentially. And
Right, you got to stop there first. It's sad.
You got to do all the accessing, and like, for example, I transported stuff for Greenpeace to Puerto Rico from Miami because Greenpeace couldn't dock in Puerto Rico because they didn't have a United States flag.
So they had to go back to the States and then come back. Makes absolutely
so they
no
asked
sense.
me, they had a bunch of commodities for Puerto Rico, and they couldn't deliver them because of the Jones Act. So they asked me to ship them when I did the Puerto Rico relief effort. So I shipped 5 containers to Greenpeace, and they picked them up, and we got them over.
Ironically speaking, I actually think that is sort of a thing where you find that the unions are guilty of, I think, supporting that as well.
The interesting, yeah, of course. The union thing is interesting. This, basically, the whole thing about like the port of and I know this. I was there. No government side or politician can tell me shit about Puerto Rico. So the interesting thing about all that is that, well, the unions did this and the government did that and the police did this. Sometimes everybody understand. Hurricane Maria impacted every single person on the island. That does not leave out the police and the unions and all these other people. They were destroyed like everybody else.
Yes.
So the idea was, the proper idea was to use our tax dollars that we're supposed to have to make sure that those people are supported. You don't go over there and go, where are the police? Well, the police are at home trying to unflood their house and put it.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's communities have to tell us what they need, and then we have to give it to them.
Now, Bobby, centralizing back to the topic at hand, feeding the people. Tell me now, because we're coming close on the end of the interview. First of all, good work. Now, tell me what do what's going forward? Are you planning on doing out there?
So the next 2 things that are on the calendar already is that in July 24th at a place called The Red in downtown Portland, which is a people of color, Black and brown and indigenous place to support the local community. And Portland has an interesting base like that. I was actually, in my farming network, I knew people up here. Actually, Quabana, who you know, Quabana and Chromo, who you've met, he's actually the mentor of Eddie Hill here, and we connected through the farming network. So I spent some time there the other day. So every second Monday, for example, if you're in Portland, you go to the Red, and anything that you buy, you're going to be supporting locally sourced business, indigenous people, etc., because it's all urban farms and they have one vendor. So we're bringing in a food truck. Korean Bo Kwan, who was yesterday, we're bringing him in. He's going to be serving. But if you're around, do it. But Friday night, we're doing something with Eco Trust. Also, we're bringing the fish, so it's going to be prepared there, so it can be given to the communities. Nothing gets sold in those type of things. We want to make sure the community sees it. Ideally, we want to be able to employ people, but until all that funding's in place, again, it's about commodities getting to the people. So if you're around, in Portland, go to the Red on actually Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, 24th, 25th, 26th. And then I've got the Walk for Change virtual town hall. You did the last one on June 20th. We got a Walk for Change coming up. Walk the number 4 change.us coming up on July 25th. That'll be next one. We'll have a full Native American panel from here that is going to be talking a lot more in detail. Give you a sideline on this real quick. So one of the lady, Deborah, who ran me around, you'll see it on the videos, who ran me around. So she was at the event at the City Hall in Cascade Locks. And what she's doing is she's going through the community and she's making sure that the census data is okay, because one of the big issues the Native American community are having is being able to register to vote, because they don't have an address at this United States government property in Lua, for example. And yet these are the kind of people that need to vote because they got issues, as many as anybody else. So she's the one that led me to all these communities. And of course, we documented to everybody. We always document so we can show people what's going on. They know it's real. I'm not here blowing smoke up everybody's patooties or whatever. This is not the Onion. So this is important. So in the next Walk for Change Town Hall, we're going to have the Native American community from here come on and explain all these wonderful and tragic situations that they're in and the work that they're doing to fix it, to give you an example. That's
Well,
what's
I
going
know
on.
you're gonna lead that for me, and we're gonna have all you guys on in the next one. Look, Bobby, magnanimous work, exceptional work. Keep up what you're doing, brother. We've been at this for a long time, and you know what, man? I'm gonna tell you, if we, you, and others don't do it, it's not gonna be televised.
It's true enough. It's true enough. Yeah,
Thank you so kindly, Bobby Rodrigo, for being on Politics Done Right.
always a pleasure, Alberto.
That was Bobby Rodrigo. Let me tell you something else about Bobby, man. You remember when we had our hurricane? I don't remember the name of the hurricane, the mind sometimes. But anyhow, when we flooded it, I don't flooded this entire Houston. He drove down from Georgia with a big truck, a big cooker, and in areas in this town where our elected officials were concentrated mostly on those with means instead of those who needed the help the most. When Brother Mayor Turner was here in Kingwood appeasing people that really didn't care for him, that wouldn't vote for him, and having people shout at him instead of being in some of the areas in the, let's say, some of the Latino communities and other communities that were flooded, Bobby was there. Our mayor, I love him. Our mayor is a good guy. But we have to start learning how to put priorities in the right places. Over here in certain parts of town, people are inconvenienced. In other parts of town, people are dying. If we looked at how this pandemic is hurting people, there are a lot of people that are being inconvenienced for wearing a mask. Even if they got sick, they may be able to have the right kind of care that they don't stand at. It's a chance of dying because their cure is so good, and they'll get the remdesivir and all these drugs. And there are those who you wearing a mask is existential for them. At some point in time, we as humans are going to have to stop thinking about just me, 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 and replace that M with a W. We, supporting each other. We. And that's one of the things I've always loved with Bobby. Bobby is all over the place. Puerto Rico. Now he's in Oregon and Washington. I wish I could be with you. We've been together in Georgia. We've been together in Colorado. We've been together in Where else, Bobby? All over the damn country. But anyhow, I wish I could be out there, but each of us serve our purpose. And my purpose now is media, and his purpose is to continue being the logistic guy that he is, knowing how to move things around logistically around the country and to help people wherever they are. He was a part of the Marines. I think it's called the some kind of Navy, some kind of Navy that was helping people during the floods and all of that. So keep up the good work, Bobby. Okay, let's continue with the program. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let's get busy with some other things here. I want to play this thing here about, Donald Trump wants to get these schools open at all costs. Forget about COVID. Forget about all these kind of things. He ran up against the wrong chancellor, the New York City chancellor of schools. Check this out. Donald Trump has been trying to get all American kids back to school, irrespective of coronavirus attacking folks or getting worse. It doesn't matter. Get them back in school. After this video, I'm going to tell you why, but this was beautiful. Richard Carranza, the New York City schools chancellor, his response to Donald Trump threatening these school districts if they don't put their kids back to school was exceptional. It ridiculed the president. Check it out, and then we'll have a little talk on the other side.
Mr. Chancellor, let me give you a chance to respond, if I can, finally, to President Trump and his administration. As you know, they're pushing for full-time classroom instructions. They're even threatening to punish schools by pulling funding from schools that do not reopen in classroom learning this year. What is your response to the president and this administration?
Well, Eamon, I was a social studies teacher. I wish he would have taken my government class because he doesn't have the authority to pull funding. So that's number one. But number two, the federal funding that comes to us is the majority is to serve students in poverty. We call that Title I, and students with disabilities. That's the IDEA Act. So the most vulnerable of our students, and in New York City, 80% of our students qualify in those categories. The most vulnerable of our students that have been even more traumatized through the COVID-19 crisis. Is the president really, really saying he wants to further traumatize those students and take funding away from them? Look, we are basing our decisions on when to come back on science. He's basing his decisions on science fiction. We're going to stick with science.
Wow, Mr. Carranza must be a politician or a comedian. I don't know which one, but he's great at either one. Number one, he made the president seem incompetent and not very knowledgeable by saying, oh, he should have taken my social studies class because you know what? He doesn't have control over the basic finances of the school district. Then he goes ahead and he demeans the president. He makes the president the evil person that he is. You mean you are going to take away the money that comes from the federal government is for feeding the kids and that sort of thing, for the kids that are having the hardest time, the poorest kids, the kids that have the most wants. You mean you are going to penalize those kids? And then lastly, he comes back and he ridicules the president. We believe in science. The president believes in science fiction. Now, the real thing here, folks, is this. What the president is trying to do is he needs the schools to be open because the schools being open is one of the largest daycare centers in the world, right? Because as the kids go to school, the parents go to work. And if the parents don't go to work, the unemployment numbers look horrendous. If the unemployment numbers look horrendous, it really hurts his chances of re-election. But what he doesn't tell you is if he had just done the right thing, shut the darn country down for 2 months earlier on, we would have been in a super hyperbolic economic recovery, because what would have happened is we would have snuffed this thing out before it started. It's the president's incompetence that have the situation where it is today, and this is what we have to start imparting, letting all the people that we're surrounding with our entire sphere of influence, we have to let people know this is what's really happening, not the garbage you're hearing from the president and not the tepidity with which a lot of the mainstream media is talking about it. This president has a lot of debts on his hands, and he also is the person responsible for the destruction of the American economy. And this other one, what I want to talk about is, when we talk about, again, we have to penalize these guys. Check this out.
And sadly, it's been another grim day on the records and report front. Florida announced more than 10,000 new cases today, bringing the state's total to over 300,000 for the first time. California's number of total hospitalizations topped 8,000 for the first time today. 8,000 hospitalizations today. 3 states, Missouri, Montana, Oklahoma, they all broke their single-day new case records. On top of that, the governor of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt, seen here next to Senator Jim Inhofe at that Tulsa rally last month with President Trump, he announced he's tested positive for the virus. In Alabama, Governor Kay Ivey issued a statewide mask order on the same day her state reported a record 47 new deaths.
I still believe this is going to be a difficult order to enforce. And I always prefer personal responsibility over a government mandate. And yet I also know with all my heart that the numbers and the data over the past few weeks are definitely trending in the wrong direction.
Now, Republican politicians tend to use personal responsibility as a crop, right? In other words, they use it when they think it's okay for some particular purpose for them. It makes absolutely no sense. Now, I don't know what it's going to take, right? But I can tell you what we can do as individuals. What we can do as individuals is to make sure that everybody we know go vote, because there are more smart people in this country than people that are easily gullible. Okay? And I don't hate the gullible people. I still love my gullible brothers and sisters. But I cannot err on the side of having everybody die. In other words, and I'm not look, pandemics can go into overdrive. They can get exponential like we see on the charts. And the reason they have is the way infection spread. I don't have time. We don't have time to completely sit back and try to convince others diligently why we are right, which we absolutely categorically are right. Masks need to be worn to reduce the spread. That's number one. And number two, we cannot just have people go happy-go-lucky, some wear masks and others don't. This is something where society has to go together and say, if you are going to be a part of society, you will be a part of society and you abide by it. Otherwise, go off to an island. What we should do as a country is have a state that is set aside for those who want to live a laissez-faire life where they have don't tread on me type freedoms. Go create a state for those people. For those of us who want to remember what socialize in a social construct in a society means, let's then do what we have to do to protect each other. We don't all have to agree what is so, but most of us, based on science, know what it is. That you see America in dire straits, that you see your passport means nothing in all but 2 countries in the world, because we are so infected as a country that no other country is going to let us in. You know, there was a time when Donald Trump was holding, he didn't want people to come into the border. These people, and he used to accuse them of having leprosy and all these diseases. All of it was false, of course, but he didn't want to let people in or whatever. Now it is funny because now we can't get into anywhere. Even if we wanted to travel, we had to go somewhere and quarantine first before they'll even think about letting us into their country. And justifiably so. They see us with an incompetent neophyte as a president, and enough senators that are there as his sycophants to continue working with him. Then what are the other countries to do? They're doing exactly the responsible thing that they need to do to protect their citizens. They must protect their citizens from Donald Trump's disease. And that is what they're doing. Justifiably so. Justifiably so. Now I have another story here. I'll do the Twitter story last. This story is about this story isn't about police brutality. This story is more about not vigilantism. This story is about people getting pissed and thinking they have the right. Now, here's a story at a hotel. The black receptionist or the person in the front desk, apparently this white couple call them and say, hey, there's a problem with our hot water or whatever, and they're cussing obscenities on the phone. The clerk hangs up the phone. How dare you hang up the phone? So these two, what I can only call animals, come downstairs and look at what they've done. And let me get this into a bigger screen because I want you to see. Look at what these. We have to. I guess. Let me see if I can get it. I can't get it any bigger. But let me go ahead and redo the screen here because you've got to see what these people have done. And for those that are listening on podcast, what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead and narrate it as I go. Anyway. Like I said, this woman, she called, or they called the front desk, hey, cussing, lot of obscenities, and our hot water is not working. This is a 59-year-old woman. And watch the screen, because what we're seeing is the lady goes to assist somebody who is getting some ice to help her out, and these two animals come down to the place. They see her, and they give her one punch in the face. The man kicks her in the gut and throws her to the ground. Then comes the assistance of two good people who move them along and pick them up. But that's not the only part of the story that I wanted to make clear. That was a violent assault for anybody who just saw it on the screen. That was a violent assault on the screen. What is sad about it is that when an assault of this nature occurs, you would expect the cops by all means to go get that person and lock them up. It took 17 days. 17 days for an arrest warrant. And the story is going to be, it's a Daily Kos story. I'd seen it somewhere else before, but Daily Kos is where I'm going to be tagging it from. But thereafter, they finally arrested the people. But that, when people talk about bias policing in this country, these are the things that we're talking about. I'm going to show the video once more for the people that are just coming in. Again, the woman, let me stop it first. What happens, the setup? The woman calls the front desk. There's a black woman at the front desk answering the phone. They're cussing her out with obscenities about the state of the hot water in their room. You know, you go to these hotels. If you know, or you're not in a high-end hotel, and even sometimes if you're at a high-end hotel, you know, a lot of people showering at the same time you run out of hot water. I mean, it's not like they're doing on instant, heating or anything like that. So she says, I hung the phone up on them because they're cussing at me. I'm not going to take that. She hung the phone up on the clients. They come downstairs mad as hell. They find her helping another customer. They walk in. They come into the view. They walk in, and the guy goes around the customer and punches the woman in the face, kicks her in the groin, and throws her on the ground and starts beating her. This is on video. The police saw this, and they did not arrest for 17 days. 17 days. I have never seen, I've seen vicious behavior before, but in this context, it is just riveting. Why did somebody get away with that? Why would somebody get away with that? Anyhow, so that's the last subject of the day, Twitter. Before I go to the screen, it's going to be really quick. The story on The Verge is, of course, you know that Twitter got hacked. Well, I can't say Twitter got hacked. Anybody who's constantly saying Twitter got hacked really doesn't know what they're talking about. We don't know if it's the back end or the front end. Now, supposedly, these hackers put on the show on the back end a screenshot of the screen that people who work for Twitter have access to that allows them to get into people's accounts. Of course, if you work for Twitter and you're in a particular department, you have full access to everybody's account. That's just how it is. I mean, at the bank, the teller, there are certain people at the bank with a particular level of operation. They have all your they have access to the computer and all the information possible. Okay? So they can read any information about you. So which is the reason why you must have very trusted people there. But even if you have the most trusted people, the security is not 100%. So when people always talk about security in this country and they want all, for me, security is a joke, right? For me, I assume that my life is an open book. Okay? My life is an open book. In other words, what I mean is I assume anybody can get into the deep recesses of anything I have on my computer, in the deep recesses of anything at my bank or whatever. So in my case, the best thing that you do is you try to live the life, you try to live a good life. You know, if you do a little X, Y, and Z, you make sure that nothing that you're going to do, if somehow it comes to light that you're like ashamed of or whatever, right? So, you know, whatever you do, you have to be compartmentalized in the way you do things or whatever, because there's no real secret. I mean, there's no secret you can really hold if you really. Now, we have been fooled into believing that we have all this security on YouTube and on Twitter and whatever, and that's how they sell it. And these people are billionaires and all of that. And then President Obama's account is used by somebody else, and oh, it's a crazy thing, how bad it's going to destroy democracy. The only reason it can destroy democracy is we have allowed these people to preach that somehow these platforms mean more than they do. I use these platforms to communicate, and when you see me, you can verify that what I am saying is true. You can determine if you want to believe me or not, but you should never take anything I say as just absolute fact. I like when Mike Cisak challenges me. I like when Michael Rudnin challenges me. I like all of that because that is how you create true discourse. Now, if I get a tweet from President Obama that says, Egberto, if you jump over a cliff, nothing is going to happen. I'm not going to do that blindly. I'm going to try to verify if I jump over a cliff if things are going to be really that way. That's what I will do. So what I think the Twitter fiasco, I don't think we should take it as something that is so bad. If we take it as something as so bad, we make it have more influence on our life than it should. We should not we should use Twitter as an information source, Facebook and all these things, but internally on our own, be able to find sources of good fact-based information best we can. And by doing the necessary research, these little nitpicking security breaches mean much less. But there are going to be security breaches, and there are more going to come. I am not surprised that this isn't done, and we won't see a lot more of this, just to make people believe we're walking on quicksand and we're so nervous about what's going to happen and we can't believe anything. We should not go there. Twitter, your phone, somebody calls you on the phone, is no different than Twitter and personalize some voice. So let's take this in a context and not overblow it the way it's supposed to be. These guys who own Twitter and Facebook should not be billionaires. They just created glorified websites, things that many of us have been building a long time, but they found a way the capital system found a way to snow you into believing it is more than it is. Let's just remember that. Okay, let me go real quickly. Egberto from Michael Rodnin. Egberto, please read this. Studies show violence against healthcare employees is more common than most people realize, and advocacy groups say it's time for policy makers to act on this growing but underreported problem. While 75% of nearly 25,000 workplace assaults occur annually in healthcare settings, only 30% of nurses and 26% of emergency departments physicians have reported incidents of violence. Those unfamiliar with daily events in healthcare institutions may be shocked to learn that the violent altercations are so common that most employees in field consider them to be simply part of the job. Michael, you're not the first person that's telling me that. You're so right, because I have friends that work in industry in every particular form that is. Okay, let's see what else I have here from Norman. Norman says, facts don't need your agreement that they are facts. Peaceful demonstration is not against the law. You're absolutely right, Edmano. CSAC don't, let's see, that's an answer to CSAC. Let me see if there's any. 9 days until economic catastrophe. Bob Mama, you want to kind of tell us what you mean by that? Is there something that I am not in the loop with? Usually I try to be in the loop as much as I can. Let's see, what else can I read here? John Trott said it is time for the Republican leadership to take that long walk to the White House and tell Trump to be a Nixon. Never going to happen. What Trump has at Nixon doesn't is a dedicated base, and that dedicated base is something that they fear like no other. The problem is that dedicated, only the sycophants are going to remain. Only the cultish ones are going to remain, because people are going to start looking at their own salvation, and that is coming pretty soon. End up people. Hey, Bob Mama, you know something, Bob Mama? You are so right. None of us know what the reaction is going to be to the end of PPP, because that could be problematic with people being thrown out of apartments, homes, and everything else. Oh, and nobody, well, Nancy Pelosi spoke about it today, so we'll see. We'll see if they come up with something. I have a feeling to prevent catastrophic disruptions, they just might. Thank you for bringing that up, Bob Mama. Very, very good observation right there. Okay, I got to get out of here, folks. Please, I want you to please consider becoming subscribers to Politics Done Right. We need you to support what we do. We need you to notice we support things like even what you see Bobby is doing, etc. We're all in this together. So please become a Patreon. Please become a Patreon by going to, yes, Bob Mama, it will be exponential homelessness. Please visit politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. That will go ahead and help us continue doing what we're doing. politicsdoneright.com/Patreon. Likewise, please go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal if you prefer using PayPal. Please go to politicsdoneright.com/PayPal. If you're on YouTube, please click that $ and say, hey, I want to give you a super chat. $2, $5, $10, $1 million, whatever you want, so that we can continue doing what we do. And we have a hell of a lot more to do. So if you're on YouTube, you can click that $ there and say, I want to give my brother what is it called again? A super chat or a super stamp. Now we're looking for memberships on Facebook. We just got permission by Facebook to get memberships. We have just 2, and one of them is sort of not really. So please go to politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. You have to get a lot of people on to create that avalanche. So please, if you will, go ahead and sign up for a month or so at Facebook. That is politicsdoneright.com/Facebook. And of course, our store. Visit our store. Get our stags, man. Get our stags at politicsdoneright.com/store. politicsdoneright.com/store. And if you want to support our equipment fund, of course, there is politicsdoneright.com/GoFundMe. Folks, I know you have the choice of listening to all these different folks that are trying to get your attention. I can tell you that trying to get your attention has a reason. And it won't stop after the election, because after the election, it will just have begun. Catch you tomorrow, Senor Rodnin. It would have just have started. Because we didn't necessarily get the candidate we want. We got an acceptable candidate that we will have to work with to get the real types of policies that will support us all, whether Republican, Democrat, or otherwise. So we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of informing to do among each other. We have a lot of educating to do among each other. And that I promise you to do. I forgot to show you at our store, at politicsdoneright.com/store. You can get our book, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, and Lose Weight and Be Fit Now. Those are my 2 current books that I have hard copies of, and e-copies that you can also read at our website for those of you who are patrons. Those of you who are patrons can go ahead and read that. Look, again, thank you for being with me. Thank you for being with Politics Done Right. Don't forget, tonight, I'll have it on my page. El Señor Greg Palace will be with Democracy Now! And Noam Chomsky and what's her name from Democracy Now! Well, what's wrong with me today? Anyhow, so it will be posted at my website. It's already posted there. I'll repost it again. So check us out. I think it starts at, if I remember correctly, 6. I'll let you know, but it's going to be at the website. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I close this baby out. I am what? Out! I'm Egberto Willies, host of Politics Done Right, an independent news program. I post several news videos of interest every day. I ask you so kindly to subscribe to my channel, and please leave me some comments. Thank you very much.